Call the cops on me. On a mission to be champs since they let me free. Prepare for combat, my adversaries crumble. Face it, I got a reputation for damage. Busters get ready to rumble. They lock me in a cell. Have me trapped in a living hell. Though not guilty, I'm still in jail. Brother, I serve my time like a soldier. Maintain composure. My shadow boxing the fight to the death. Busting boulders. Every boxer with a pair of gloves. Best give up love. Here's a man from the makings of a thug. A lethal weapon, mind sharp. And in my heart, there's a wish to shake the world with the flurry of my black fist. Now once a high school dropout. Now I'm the $1 million champ. Who's the next to get knocked out?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Another episode of Cheap Seats Boxing Show. Angelo here, my boy JP. JP, what's up, man?
Let's do it.
All right, you can follow the show on Twitter, Cheap Seats Box, iTunes, and Stitcher. Rate, review, and subscribe. Why do I always keep on saying Stitcher? But iTunes, rate, review helps keep the show noticeable. You know how we like to do it. If you do that, we take the time out to acknowledge you guys. You guys will be the unofficial sponsor. We'll shout you out. So please do that. You can follow us on all the platforms, you know, everywhere. It's everywhere that you can find podcasting.
And Zoom.
Zoom, old school, including Zoom. Okay, hey. The big fight, of course, this last weekend was the Triple G, Danny Jacobs pay-per-view. But we also have another fight that I want to talk about, which is the only fight we're going to talk about this week, with Anthony Crawler and Jorge Linares rematch. So I wanted to get a UK perspective on that fight, but first we will talk about the Triple G. But I got from the New Age Boxing Podcast all the way across the pond in England. Martin Theobald, how you doing, bud?
I'm very good, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on your show as well, so thank you. Over in the UK, big fan, and follow all your work. So, yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, man, I really, really appreciate that.
Thanks for coming.
The fight is, I guess, controversial in a way, but I think it was so close it's hard to be controversial. Really, for me, that fight was, I think the undercard was a little bit more controversial. But, Martin, give me your perspective, man. How did you score the fight, and how did it go according to what you thought, or how was it totally different than what you thought it was going to be?
Look, hands up, I thought, as per most boxing fans, I suppose, that it wouldn't take Golovkin more than 8 rounds to get rid of Jacobs. But, you know, when you sit, and I watched it a couple of days after the fight. I mean, it was very late in the night over here. And it took me a couple of days to catch up. So I'd seen all of the online reaction. I'd seen, you know, many people state it as a robbery. I don't know how you can call it a robbery. I don't think it's a robbery. I think it was a close, you know, good fight. Good in stage. It took a few rounds to properly warm up. I personally had it to Golovkin by a round, but, you know, I couldn't object if somebody had it to Jacobs by 2 or Golovkin by 2 or anywhere in the middle of that, you know, any range of those. But, you know, it showed Jacobs in a new light, I suppose. He's had his own personal challenges over the years, and you've got to respect that. What I don't like is people almost bringing Jacobs down to discredit Golovkin's achievement. I'm not a fan of that. I just thought it was an enjoyable fight. Certainly the second half of the fight was, you know, that lateral movement from Jacobs caused Golovkin all sorts of problems that we probably haven't seen since Dominic Wade got chinned by Golovkin.
Absolutely. JP, how'd you score it, man?
I had Jacobs winning by a round, but I couldn't argue either way. The way I looked at the fight, it was like, okay, never seen Jacobs fight like this before. Never expected this. Triple G, never seen somebody fluster him like that. Like he couldn't get off the way he wanted to. So it made it. I couldn't say it made it a Jacobs fight per se because never seen Jacobs fight like that. All of the Terrence Crawford switching back and forth and, you know, lateral movement, did not expect that at all. In some ways, it looked like he threw the kitchen sink at him because he knew if he didn't, he couldn't win, which is a good enough game plan out of respect to say, look, I can't beat him like, you know, being Danny Jacobs. With Golovkin, wasn't his normal fight, but at the same time, I don't know if you can kind of necessarily hate him for him trying to adjust to somebody fighting him in a different way than he expected. So I don't think he got enough credit for his boxing per se in that fight because he landed a lot of jabs, but people weren't looking for jabs from Triple G. I think that was the problem.
Yeah. Well, truth be told, I scored at 114, 113 for Jacobs. And I thought he got the early rounds. I gave him the first 3 rounds. There was 3 swing rounds for me. I think it was two. I think it was 2, 7, 9, and 11. Like you could have gone those anywhere in any way, and I gave 3 of those rounds to Jacobs. So you switch one round around, and all of a sudden Golovkin's winning. That's why I don't understand when people are talking about robbery. You hear people say Jacobs clearly won the fight. Okay, well, what'd you have the score? 114, 113. Well, that's not clear because because by saying that, you're saying that every single one of the 7 rounds you gave Jacob there were no doubt about those rounds. So it means you gave him 0 swing rounds. That means you gave every swing round that you thought there was to Golovkin. But that's really not true because so many of these rounds, some of them were uneventful, like the first round. I think Golovkin landed 2 power punches. Jacobs landed 1. Literally nothing happened. 2 was very close. So, I mean, if you switch out one of those rounds, the other guy wins. So it's hard for me in a fight like this to listen to people say, it was definitely this way, it was definitely this way, and if you didn't see it my way, then you don't know what the hell you're watching, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, and all that shit. It's just people they think their opinion is the only one that matters. Like they're so closed off to hearing anything anybody else wants to say about how they saw a fight. I just don't understand how in a fight this close you can be so confident that one person fought one over the other. I scored it for Jacobs. I thought Jacobs did more probably of what he wanted to do than Golovkin did, but it was that close that if you said, hey, Golovkin won by a round or 2, no problem. Like you said, Martin, if you had it both ways, 2 rounds, you really can't argue with it. You're just like, hey, they like this work in this round that I particularly liked for the other guy, and that's all it was. It's really hard to be so definitive in a fight this close.
It was a robbery. Nah, bullshit.
Martin, what do you think? What do you think the next step for Triple G is? Because I've always been in the on the side that the Canelo fight's not going to happen in September. We know that he's talking about Billy Joe Saunders in June, and then maybe he'll fight another fight in September, and then maybe one more fight in December. But for me, I thought this really shut the door down on Canelo and him fighting in September, because if he looks like he may be aging a little bit, why not give it another year? I don't know about you, man. What do you think, Martin?
No, I'd agree. I mean, over in the UK, there's a lot of talk that it's done for Billy Joe Saunders on June the 10th, I think it is.
Yeah.
To take place over in Kazakhstan. I think Saunders, look, we haven't really seen the best of Saunders ever. He boxed well for 6 rounds against Chris Eubank. He boxed well for 2-3 rounds against Andy Lee when he won the world title. Other than that, his career, hasn't really ever, it's not taken off. It's not caught fire. That said, he's an undefeated middleweight, and when Danny Jacobs switched to southpaw, Golovkin just oddly couldn't deal with him. I don't know why it was that he couldn't deal with him, because as an amateur, he's probably fought 100 southpaws. And Danny Jacobs wasn't a very good southpaw on Saturday night. Like, he wasn't a natural southpaw at all. His lead hand was all wrong. And so it'd be interesting to see how Golovkin dealt with Saunders if that fight gets made. Which I'll always be doubtful, because Saunders over here has a reputation for, he talks a lot, but he doesn't necessarily sign the fights that, in the same vein that Chris Eubank Jr. does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, how is he
Say that again? Can you hear?
Martin? Oh, it's breaking up, man. It might be on our side. I'm not sure.
Hello?
Yeah.
So I can hear you then.
Okay.
Say that again, then.
I've got you.
Okay. No, you were bringing up a point about how Billy Joe Saunders is perceived over there, because over here in the United States, he really is just basically a joke, because he talks a lot of game and he's going to fight. So is it the same over there?
Yeah, I think he's just a frustrating character over here. he's probably not so much a joke as yet, but I think if it goes for another year with him fighting, Russians that we've never heard of, then yeah, absolutely, he'll be down that route of being a joke. He's just frustrating for Brit because we want to see our fighters challenged and taking on the best. And whether it's politics, whether it's lack of ambition, I don't know. But there's, aside from a handful, Crawler being one that we'll talk about later, there's too many that don't take on those big challenges, and Saunders is the most guilty of all of them at times.
Mm-hmm. Just say if the Saunders fight is next, the one thing that I think that he had to worry about from Jacobs that he doesn't have to worry about from Saunders is the power. It seemed like he was more hesitant, so I don't think he's going to be as hesitant. So I think when he gets Saunders cornered, he's not going to be hesitant to throw a punch and leave himself open. We've seen that with Golovkin. As he doesn't respect his opponent's power, he's more wide open and leaves himself open to. He's not afraid to the old expression, take two to land one. He's not afraid to do that. And I don't think Saunders poses much in the, his form of power that it's really going to make Triple G hesitant.
I don't think Billy Joe Saunders would carry any more power or any more threat than Kell Brook did. Golovkin didn't care that Kell Brook was a big uppercut that he landed. It would have knocked out most welterweights, and Kell Brook would have gone off, and claimed the victory. But it didn't move Golovkin. And I think Saunders, the best fighter he's ever fought is Andy Lee. And Andy Lee, for all of his plus points, isn't world class. I just think Billy Joe Saunders would get found out against Golovkin. I don't think he would be able to, keep him off. He's a very slick mover when he's at his best, Saunders. I was at the Eubank Jr. fight, and for 6 rounds, Eubank Jr. couldn't lay a glove on him. But he's also not that fit. Golovkin proved that he can go for 12 rounds. Billy Joe Saunders hasn't.
Yeah, he pretty much he rode 2 knockdowns to a victory against Andy Lee, as far as I was concerned. JP, how much of a chance would you give Saunders against Golovkin?
What did Grandma say? A snowball's chance in hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it. I just don't. He could talk. Now, he could talk the fight up. I give him that. But as far as getting in the ring with it, he's going to get his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Up and down the ring. And the not being fit part. See, this is what gets me about this last fight with Triple G. It felt like people talked as if it was eons since the last time he actually went a whole fight. So now that he actually went a whole fight and there's controversy, I'm pretty sure he's going to go back to the drawing board and say, you know what? I'm going to make sure I'm strong from 1 to 12 from now on. And that's going to give all of his next opponents hell. Because in some ways, his intimidation was like Mike Tyson-esque. Like, yeah, this fight ain't going to make it to the end. So guys would either give up and training, they'll give up and they'll walk to the ring. After they get hit with a couple of shots, they'll give up. Now he's got to take into consideration that, okay, so now you feel like there's a chink in my armor. Fine, I'm going to knock your ass out in the 11th then. And I think it pretty much ruins a lot of the other fighters he's about to face.
I think that this could be the best or the worst thing to happen to Golovkin. Either he is getting older, and that intimidation is gone now, so people won't fear him, and they will box smarter against him, and they will try to do some of the blueprint that maybe Kell Brook lined out that Danny Jacobs exposed a little bit more of, or it's going to put Golovkin into more of okay, well then I'm just going to go ahead and just get this over with. I'm not going to try to set it up so brilliant. Everything he sets up, he's a thinking man's boxer, no matter how people want to think of him, because he knocks everybody out. But he's always thinking, and I think that was the part in this fight. He was thinking a little too much, and I think maybe if he takes some of that back, which a lot of older fighters don't do, they actually start thinking more and throwing less. So we will see. Like I said, it's either going to be the best thing or the worst thing that happened to him. Either it's going to expose a lot of whatever flaws he does have, or it's going to motivate him to add even more wrinkles to his game, which could be very dangerous to people.
I'm betting on the dangerous part. Very dangerous. You know, here's why I'm gonna say this. I gotta give credit to Jacobs for as much as he did, but like I said before, he had to throw the whole kitchen sink at him.
Mm-hmm.
So other fighters got to take in consideration. Not only was he switching styles and stances, not only was he fighting completely something that was completely out of his element from a fan, he also rehydrated heavy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
to do all of that, don't assume that you're going to come in, you know what, I'm going to show the speed like Kell Brook. Kell Brook was a welterweight. He blew up just to be big enough to fight Golovkin. And then I'm going to do what Jacobs did. Jacobs kind of came in the ring big. That's why one of the titles wasn't on the line. And he did all of that. So whatever you think you're going to do, remember, now he's seen it in the amateurs, and now he's seen it in the pros. So he's going to be better able to adjust to it than the next person that does it. It's going to be hell on the next fighter.
So let's talk about this. If they rematch, how much of a chance, Martin, do you give Jacobs in a rematch? Or do you think that it's going to lean more to Golovkin, or do you think that Jacobs can actually add on to what he did in the first fight?
I mean, I think Jacobs must be kicking him. Sunday morning, Jacobs must have been kicking himself all around his hotel room. He threw that fight away. If he'd have worked a bit harder, which I know is easy to say, sat on the end of a podcast, but, he had an opportunity to really walk away with some of those rounds. And if he was a little bit busier, whether that comes down to, again, he had the fear of Golovkin, or perhaps that exercise wasn't, beneficial to his stamina. I don't know. You've got to give Jacobs a great chance next time round, which I wouldn't call it a 50-50, but, it's certainly a lot closer than what it was, pre-Saturday night. Maybe 60-40 Golovkin, or, maybe you give him an even better chance still.
Yeah, it's because he, there was a lot of advantages that for Jacobs in this fight. That, whether it was the weight, which was an easy one to pick from, or seeing having a little bit of a blueprint from Kell Brook and saying, well, I can do some of that without leaving myself exposed. That was something that wasn't open before the Brook fight. I don't think people actually thought about using that kind of game plan, a little bit more movement, because even people who tried to move on him still got crushed within 6-7 rounds. And then the third thing was that this was such a long layoff for Golovkin. Not necessarily a long layoff in boxing anymore, because everybody seems to lay off 6 to 8 months. But for Golovkin, that's a long layoff for him. So if he fights, say he fought in June and he fights Saunders and he comes out unscathed and he wants to fight in September against Jacobs in a rematch, I think he would be that much more sharp. And we saw that Jacobs collapsed to the ground at the end of the fight. Like, I literally gave you everything that I had, and I either squeaked out a 1-point win or I lost a really close fight. And now I don't know if he can fight an even better fight than that. Maybe he can. Maybe he has more energy. But Golovkin, I think, is open to make a lot more adjustments than I think Jacobs has. I don't think there's that many more adjustments that Jacobs can make, and that many more things that he could take advantage of. But I think in the rematch, Golovkin can do a lot and change up a few more things, be a little bit more aggressive. Maybe say, you know what, I'm not going to defend the IBF. Fuck it, I'm going to come in pretty heavy myself. Little things like that. I think it may be a little bit more wide. And remember, I scored it for Jacobs at one point, by 1 point. So I would.
Do you think? Yeah. Do you think it would change the approach by Jacobs? The fact that he knows now that he can take the power of Golovkin, which, as you say, it's kind of almost a mental barrier before you even get into the ring, is the power and the destruction of Golovkin. And yes, he got knocked over, but ultimately he's lasted 12 rounds with him, and that was not a flash knockdown, but it was almost an off balance off that double right hand. Do you think that would change the approach that Jacobs would have next time around?
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword, because I think there's two things that I saw. Jacobs probably feels like I could take that shot, which Normally in boxing, when you feel like that with somebody, you get your ass knocked out because now you make yourself open. The other thing is though, when I looked at the end of the fight, Triple G didn't think he won the fight. The way his body language was like a little off. Like they gave me this one, but I'm gonna take it.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is also, does he think he can knock out Danny Jacobs? You know, and it might just be for those two fighters in particular about each other. Now, normally, if they have a rematch, I go with who lost. In my opinion, Triple G lost. So, in my opinion, Triple G is gonna he's gonna do more behind the jab next time to increase everything. And I don't know what else Danny could throw at him. I mean, damn. I mean, he'll have to start doing Taekwondo.
I think I think it's fair though that in this fight, no matter who you thought won or lost, just erase all of that. Coming out of the fight, Jacobs feels more of the winner and Golovkin feels more of the loser. And generally in rematches, winners think, well, I'm just going to use the same game plan. I may up the work rate a little bit more, but I got the recipe to beat them. Where the guy who feels like they lost or did lose says, you know what, I got to do this different, I got to do this different, and make the adjustments. Almost like what Leo Santa Cruz did to Carl Frampton, saying, okay, you know what I did to you, you know what I was doing the last half of the fight in the first time around. I'm gonna do that all 12 rounds, and let's see how you react to it. You know that, and in rematches, like you say, the loser seems to be able to make more adjustments than the perceived winner or the winner of the fight. Yeah. So I don't know. Either way, it's going to be good, and it'll sell. I don't even know what the sales were over here. I didn't even look at it pay-per-view wise, but I think that, what was it, 150? That was it.
That's pretty much what they go.
Wow, 150. Wow. Well, it will probably do better than 150, which was a pretty terrible number, but there's at least intrigue. I don't know. I know we got you on for another few minutes here, so I do want to talk the Crawler Linares rematch. I know you touched on this a little bit on your show. What does Crawler have to do to try to turn the tide in the rematch? Now, how we said we give the edge to the winner, I think, or the loser in a rematch on our side. In this one, I give the edges all to the winner of the first fight. I think it's more about Linares would actually have to get caught at some point or worn down. Crawler's going to have to go to a place that, you know, he's been before. He's been tested. He's definitely battle tested, but I don't know if he can make the adjustments to get the victory this time against Linares. What do you think, Martin?
I'll set the British scene on this one. Anthony Crawler, $1 Million Crawler, which is probably the best name in box.
It is definitely a great name.
He's so loved over in the UK. I don't know how much of his backstory you know about, but he was, he went through the small hall circuits and worked his way up. And then he's had these horrific problems where he got attacked when his neighbour's house was getting burgled, and he got hit over the head with a concrete block and ended up in hospital and all this stuff, right? So he's got this amazing backstory. And so when he comes back and beats Barroso and knocks him out with that crippling body shot for the world title, as a nation, everybody kind of got behind Anthony Crawler. But look, there's only so far that the goodwill of a nation will take you, and I think Jorge Linares is beyond that. What can he adjust? Joe Gallagher is a trainer. Joe Gallagher has one style. You Americans would have seen it with, when Liam Smith came over to fight Canelo. Yeah. Hands up, try and wear the fighter out for the best part of the first 6 rounds, and then start to do your work from round 7 onwards. That's what every Joe Gallagher fighter does. That's just his style. So how's he going to be able to, in the space of, 6 months, adjust Anthony Crawler to something else other than that? It's not feasible. I don't see how he can. I think the only way that Crawler wins this is if Jorge Linares is denigrated to a point where he's not able to stand there for 12 rounds. We saw Kevin Mitchell knock over Jorge Linares when he fought him over in the UK, but Kevin Mitchell's a slightly more explosive fighter than Crawler. Crawler's more work rate, but probably softer punches. So I don't see that he has, aside from that body hook that he took Barroso out with, he doesn't have that power, unfortunately for me, to take out Linares. I think Linares will probably do a better job than he did last time. I think it'll be either a more clear-cut points victory or a stoppage.
Yeah, I'm the same way. We did know the backstory on Crawler, and that's why he was our 2015 Comeback Fighter of the Year after coming back from the attack and winning the title. I mean, how can you not love that story? You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a very likable man. He's always got a smile on his face when you see him. He's just a nice bloke.
Yeah, we do our best to keep up on as much of the UK scene as we can. It's a little bit harder for us. We don't get nearly the fights from the UK over here that you guys get from the US.
You're lucky because I'm a bit shit. You don't want to see us.
Well, that's true too.
We feel the same way about our fights.
One thing to know about the New Age Boxing Podcast, if you guys haven't checked it out, and you guys should be checking it out, is how much they love Eddie Hearn and Matchroom when he's talking about some of these shit cards.
Eddie Hearn has done some very good things for UK boxing. You know, he's brought money in that was never there, but he also takes the piss out of UK boxing. Created this whole new breed of fans that are frankly atrocious, but you know they bring in the money. Yeah, my views on Eddie Hearn are horrific at times, but you know he does an okay job in building fights and building exposure for the sports. You shouldn't really complain too much, but he's also a prick.
So y'all going to church together? Y'all could be buddies. Come on, Pete, hug it out now.
As I say, it's not all hate for him. There's some love deep down for the man.
There you go.
How deep we talking though?
not very deep. Right?
Oh yeah, it doesn't shine very often.
You know, there is one young fighter you guys have talked about a lot, is O'Hara Davies, and you know, I knew of him. I've seen a couple of his fights. Then when I saw him stand up to Floyd Mayweather, I mean, I love the guy's personality. Besides a guy like that, who else on the UK scene is somebody that is under the radar for us over here that maybe we should be keeping an eye on?
I think the hottest one over here at the moment, and you may have seen him on the Frampton Santa Cruz undercard, was Josh Taylor. I don't know how aware you are of Josh.
No, not much. Because they didn't show him on the undercard here.
Okay, I mean, to be honest, it's not such a bad thing because it wasn't a very good performance. He's trained by Shane McGuigan as well, so McGuigan's time in that camp was spent with Frampton rather than Taylor. But Josh Taylor, very highly decorated amateur Scottish lad, fights. He's in the same weight division as O'Hara Davies. And so, yeah, he's a fantastic fighter. When you see him, I mean, he's been Commonwealth champion over here, and he's only had under a dozen fights. And he, in times, he fights in the same style. And I'm not making a direct comparison, but in a same kind of way as you see Lomachenko from the angles and then moving off. And he's a ferocious puncher as well. And he's a really, really good prospect. He's under, I say, Shane McGuigan, promoted by Barry McGuigan, former world champion over in Northern Ireland. And there's a lot of hype around him, a lot of hope for him. So I mean, if I was going to pick one out of the UK for you guys to keep an eye on, it'd be Josh Taylor.
Okay, I got one question of another fighter. What is the ceiling that they're putting on Anthony Joshua?
Huge Joshua fan, right, by the way.
Who knows? I mean, his career has been so well managed from a perspective of, you know, most reward, least risk, that, I mean, how can you possibly say how far he can go? simple fact is, look, when he fought Dillian White, he took that left hook and his legs went to jelly. That's the only proper shot he's taken in his career because his opponents have been absolutely dog shit. They're awful. But the Klitschko fight, what do you guys think about Klitschko? You know, on the back of the Fury fight, is he kind of worn out goods, or was that just an off night, or was Fury better than everything else? I don't know what the kind of American view of it is, but it'll either expose him, or it will help make him, or it will just leave everybody thinking that Klitschko, you know, should have retired after the Fury fight.
I think that the latter is probably more true, that there's people are going to be saying that Klitschko was done going into that fight. I picked Fury to get knocked out in 10 only because he can't take a punch very well. But I actually said that he would be, but I did say that he would be up on the cards. I thought he'd actually be winning the fight, but you know, it's hard to say that a guy like Klitschko wouldn't been able to catch him when, you know, a guy like Steve Cunningham put him on his ass, you know. So, and
yeah,
at the time, I'm not as much anymore as a huge Fury fan. I mean, I loved his talk. I love what he brought to the table because we need characters like that, especially in the heavyweight division. Me and JP are huge on that. But I think Bryant Jennings kind of showed some of the blueprint. I think Fury exposed everything, and I think that Joshua's probably going to finish it. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he knocks him out in about 6 or 7 rounds. Wilder's never had the best punch resistance as it is. All his losses are by knockout up until the Fury fight. I think that people will still have questions when it comes to Joshua because it'll be how far gone was Klitschko. That's just this far out. That's how I see it.
At this point,
yeah. I mean,
go ahead. You got it.
No, go for it. Go for it.
At this point, I'm just looking at the layoff. Like, Klitschko is 139 in boxing years right now, and his layoff is massive. Mm-hmm. And his style is just upright, 1-2 punching. Good 1-2 punching, but by the time he gets into the ring with Joshua, he's going to need a good 5-6 rounds to warm up, and that's going to be 5-6 rounds too many.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I was just going to say that that Klitschko just he's got nothing left. The layoff, I think, is the killer for him. And Eddie Hearn, you said he's managed Anthony Joshua well up to this point. They obviously see something in Klitschko that they think that they can take advantage of. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have put Anthony Joshua in any kind of danger. I think that's the gist of it.
No, I completely agree. I mean, it would be a nightmare scenario for Hearn if Joshua ends up laid out on the canvas in front of 90,000 people at Wembley Stadium. I think the risk of that happening is very low. And then it's just, what do they move on to? If you assume he does take out Klitschko, then he's got to stay up there in that elite level at that point. You can't be chucking him in with another Eric Molina. You've got to start looking at the likes of, I don't know what the appetite is over in America for Wilder versus Joshua.
That is the appetite. That is it right there. Like, okay, get y'all ass in the ring.
Yeah, because I think you have literally two of the most well-managed, least risk-taking heavyweights to hold the title.
Absolutely. They'll probably avoid each other for another 10 years based on what they've done so far.
And the crazy part, I think Wilder actually wants to fight this year. So he says. So that's the interesting part. I think it'll happen by the end of the year. But
I think the only one who's got a legitimate resume out there is Joseph Parker.
Yeah, but he almost got his ass kicked.
Yeah, that's that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Some fat Mexican turns up and nearly takes him out.
Isn't that the funny thing though that Joseph Parker's probably the worst of the 3 champions.
Yeah,
and yet he's the most accomplished. He actually has the thickest resume. It's just kind of sad what the heavyweight division
Yeah.
has become. And we can blame Tyson Fury for this shit. I mean, really. He takes the title and does nothing with it.
Leave
Yeah.
Batman
and
out
we
of
got
this.
Huey Fury going over to New Zealand and looking to fight. I don't know if you've seen Peter Fury's been denied the visa to go over with Huey to New Zealand.
Oh.
No, I did not know that part. Do you,
Yeah, no, it's come out today that he's been denied the visa. So Huey Fury will be going over there without Peter, which means that he'll probably, I suspect, end up with a guy called Clifton Mitchell going over to do his corner work. Clifton manages a number of fighters over here. Clifton is probably best known for being a bit of a gobshite. He's very loud, abrasive character. I've seen this corner work firsthand, a couple of fights. I'm not overly impressed with it. He was the same guy that went out, the fight you mentioned earlier, Tyson versus Steve Cunningham. He was working the corner there. I suspect he'll be the main man in the corner for the Joseph Parker fight now, which is a real disappointment, I suspect, for Huey. And I suspect will also, it's going to change a lot of stuff, even down to the logistics of when they travel over to New Zealand, because, he's going to want to spend as much time with, his trainer and his dad to make sure that he's prepared as possible. So there's going to have to be a lot of adjustments made now for that fight in advance that you wouldn't have had to do otherwise.
how much of a chance do you give Huey Fury? Do you think he's going to win that fight? I think Parker has not been as impressive, but I think he's definitely more battle tested than Huey Fury by leaps and bounds. Could this be a step too far for Huey?
It's hard to say. Again, how Huey Fury, the Brit. I'm a big Huey Fury fan. How he's ended up in a world title fight is a joke. It's an absolute joke. He should not be, with his CV, fighting for a world title. So how good is he? Who knows? Because he's not fought anyone legitimate at all. But that said, he's under the tutelage of Peter Fury. We've seen what Peter Fury did with Tyson. And when the pressure's on, hopefully Huey can replicate what his cousin's done.
When your family dresses up as Batman, it gives you a lot of options in the boxing world. That is entertainment.
All right, Mark.
Yeah, I think that's more Tyson than Huey. I think Tyson is more the live wire, bit of a loose cannon out of the two.
Well, to be honest, wasn't it Huey was dressed as the Joker, right? Was it the Joker?
He was.
Yeah. Hey, Martin, you know what? We're going to let you go. We know you got things to do, man. We really appreciate you taking some time out to give us some of the UK perspective on everything, man. If you guys haven't checked out the New Age Boxing Podcast, you guys need to. Martin's on there with his buddies Terry and Andy. Where can they find you on Twitter, Martin?
At New Age Boxing UK is my own one.
All right. Martin, man, we really appreciate it, man. Hopefully we'll do this again. Who knows, maybe even one day I can join you guys, man, or me and JP could get on there one time.
That'd be fun.
Give me some American perspective.
Absolute pleasure. We'll do a crossover.
There you go. I really appreciate it, man. Good talking to you, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invite as well. It's much appreciated and a pleasure speaking to you both.
All right. The pleasure was ours, man.
Peace.
Take care, gentlemen.
Later.
Bye.
So that was Martin Theobald as we're playing the jams now.
Hey, what the hell just happened?
As we're playing the jams on Cheap Seats Boxing Show. But check out New Age Boxing Podcast. Do it. I mean, it was great for him. He did that right before bedtime for us over here, man. Much, much appreciated. JP, we used a lot more time than we thought. So let's go down
To the robbery.
There was absolutely one robbery, and that was Sirsek Sor Rungvisai getting the decision over the former pound-for-pound king in Roman, Chocolatito Gonzalez. Majority decision. Honestly, we both said it right away. I don't know how the fuck they got there. They let that knockdown carrying him all the way through 12. And I'll give I got a fucking conspiracy theory on this shit. So, go ahead, JP.
He didn't want to fight. I mean, no matter how you slice it, yeah, he got the knockdown. That's fine, whatever. He didn't want to fight. He didn't win the most rounds. He didn't land the most punches. He didn't have a higher percentage of landing. I mean, if the headbutts count, I understand. But even when they got in exchanges, Chocolatito got the best of them. Now, don't. I'm not saying that it wasn't a good fight, because it definitely was. They definitely had some good exchanges. It definitely was a good competition. But Roman Gonzalez won a damn fight. I mean, I understand. Okay, I can't say your name, bro.
Sorung Vasai?
Sorung Vasai. I feel like, okay, then we'll leave it like that. Sorung Vasai. I understand you were happy because they said you were the winner, and that's what you're supposed to be. Me as a fan watching it, everybody that was sitting around me when we was watching it, because I went to a sports bar, everybody said the same 3 words when the winner was what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's like everybody in unison. Like a choir, like, what the fuck? It was what the fuck. Because he didn't win the fight. That's all I got to say.
All right. Conspiracy time. You've heard this ever since Chocolatito has been named the top fighter in the world, pound for pound, by a lot of people. And ours is a little bit different. You know how we do. We actually take the pound for pound as far as, you better at least show us something that you could dominate at least 3 divisions, or actually have done it. If you've actually done it, you get a little bit more credit for it. Or if your resume is very strong going through the divisions, which Gonzalez has done, it has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Because since the 70s, the 60s, when you're talking the best fighter in the pound for pound, maybe even longer than that, a lot of it, the majority of it, is slick fighting Americans. Or slick fighting dark-skinned people. Because if it's a guy like, Rigondeaux or something like that, everybody talks about how the skill level is so out of this world. I think people had De La Hoya at one point. I never really did.
Yeah, he was up there.
But
I think it was during the time of Roy Jones, so
yeah,
nobody actually was above Roy until he lost, and I think that was kind of Floyd-esque.
It was like a boom, 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 and before that was Sweet Pea, and so you got these slick black fighters for the most part, or they were so athletic in the Roy Jones mold that they didn't get hit, right? And we know Floyd, ever since the Castillo 1 fight, really changed his whole style and doesn't really get hit clean anymore.
Right.
But before that, go back, he got hit clean against
plenty of people.
Plenty of people. Castillo and Judah and DeMarcus Corley. Corley fucking go watch the Corley fight, and everybody would say that's not the pound for pound fighter because he got hit so much in that fight.
Yeah, he walked through a lot of
shit. Yeah. And so how things have gotten hijacked. People think, if you get hit now, all of a sudden getting hit when you're fighting is like the weirdest thing in the world.
I'm glad you said that. We got in the biggest fucking argument at the sports bar about this shit. It's like, well, you know what I'm saying? He got hit. Like, it's fucking boxing. When the fuck did not... You know what? I was like, what the fuck? These are not ninjas. They're fucking boxers. This is not special forces. You're supposed to get hit. Yeah. If this guy's a professional and you're a professional, it's like, let's switch it around and make it football. I can't believe he got tackled. What kind of shit is that? Exactly. Let's put it around in baseball. I can't believe he struck out. What the fuck are you thinking?
A power hitter struck out?
What kind of shit, Let's take it to basketball. How the hell did he miss that 3? Hello? This shit is not 100%.
Thank you. I'm glad you said it on that. Because there is a lot of truth to that. People, how can you be the pound for pound and you get hit that many times? Okay. Well, can the opposite not be true? How can you be pound for pound and not hit your opponent as many times as, say, a Gonzalez does? I mean, when you hit a guy 400 and something times in a fight, or you land 372 power punches, or how about this? Yes, he got hit a lot. There was also a lot of punches thrown. He got hit with the same amount of punches, or I think a little bit less, than like Floyd did against...
the second Madonna fight?
No, the first Madonna fight.
Gotcha.
You see, when somebody goes in, like, if somebody finally went in against Floyd and said, no, I'm throwing fucking punches. Because I'm going to throw more, so that means I'm going to hit him more. That's all it is. So how you have to be able to give it both ways. Like, I understand defensively if somebody's not hitting the other fighters, but goddamn, if somebody can hit another fighter that many fucking times, how does he not get credit for that? And it's almost a conspiracy. Like, the American public was like, I'm not having this fucking little ass Nicaraguan do this. And if you look at the scorecards, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, he won all 5 rounds on 2 of the judges' scorecards and 4 of the 5 on the other judges' scorecards, and there's no way at any point that Rungvisai won 5 fucking rounds in a row. It's impossible. To me, that's a fixed fight when you have those 5 rounds in particular go almost exactly the same way for all 3 judges.
And on top of that, if you noticed, when they had the punches landed, and I want y'all to go back and look at this. When they had the punches landed, I think Chocolatito was about 370. And then, when they do the little body composition next to it, it was at 441. And I'm like, so even though y'all math is all fucked up in a 10-second span.
That was the power punches compared to total punches.
Got you. But they played it as if, well, I ain't good in that. When you look at, so he landed 441 punches to, what?
270.
And I'm like, so you're not gonna, it's not like we talking about 270 knockout shots. Like, we talking about 270. Couple of jabs, couple of hooks. Some good ones, some not so good ones. Against 441. Now, in math, they say, this number is greater than this number. We're not talking Paulie Malignaggi, 362 jabs and a couple of power punches. We wasn't talking, no. He was hitting the shit out of him. But it doesn't count. And I'm going to go out there and say this just the way I see it. If you don't, because I think it happens with a lot of fighters in general. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. Actually, I don't care race. I don't care style. I don't care country. When a motherfucker gets to the top of the hill, all of a sudden, the expectations of life change. If he isn't spectacular every time, if it isn't a blowout, and Floyd said this even about himself, if it isn't a blowout every time, motherfucker, he must have lost. Bullshit. Think about it when you were kids. Jordan only scored 32. That wasn't a great game. Bitch, he averages 32. Like, could you name anybody else in the league that? Nah, not really, but, he should have, maybe threw the ball off the top of the stadium and then caught it mid-air, half court, and floated, around the stadium 4 times and then dunked, and it would have been spectacular. It's bullshit.
I think the biggest travesty of that whole fight was that Gonzalez was robbed of his greatest performance. Coming back from being knocked down, being headbutted to hell, getting cut like that, and yet dominating the fight after the second round. Whatever, the numbers are whatever, and yeah, we've always said the punch stats aren't the be-all, end-all, but they do give you some idea of what happened. And it wasn't 150 off, okay? That's the point. It wasn't 150 off. And when you talk about percentage of punches landed, do you know that Rungvisai landed 1 of his last 143 jabs against Chocolatito? So, to me, that's the bad part, was he was robbed of his greatest day on a big stage against long odds after being knocked down and being cut, and fighting through that and dominating in the way he is. That was his defining moment of his career that he was robbed from, as far as I'm concerned.
Thus, putting in the groundwork for them to say that Triple G Danny Jacobs was a robbery, because you fucking robbed Chocolatito the fight before it. So it's like, who judging today?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, really? What the fuck did y'all see?
Now, I'll say this too.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
My friends blame Donald Trump. Like goddamn Russia and fucked up the whole fight. It's Putin. It's goddamn Russia. But it is what it is.
Damn, so you're saying President Reagan should have been in office, then the Nicaraguan,
Yes.
would have got the benefit.
Iran Contra would have
Like,
got.
I'm going for Gonzalez. Sorry guys, little political rant there.
God.
No. Where the fuck was I going with this now?
Sorry.
No, it's okay, man. When it came to the pound for pound thing, and I've seen this on Twitter, and I try to stay. I said it last time about this fight because I knew boxing Twitter was going to run down racial lines because it always seems to, especially in Triple G fights, and it's fucking disgusting, man. It just gets. It turns into a YouTube comment thread. You know what I mean? The comment section on YouTube. That's what it turns into, man. It's terrible, man. On both sides, it's fucking stupid. But now, that being said, I saw this on Twitter that made me laugh. Well, I guess Andre Ward's #1 pound for pound. Stop. Pump the brakes. You want to supplant the guy who was #1, who lost a fight that 90 to 95% of the people thought he won, with a guy who won his last fight that about 80% of the people thought he lost. How about this? It's vacant. To be determined.
No, it's not vacant.
Earn the title. The only way it's not vacant is if
Lomachenko.
No, I wasn't even gonna go there. I'm gonna go the Floyd Mayweather route. I retired Manny #1.
Yeah. I'm sorry, because he was my fighter.
He was your number 2, actually.
No, Manny was my #1.
No, you're number 2 though, pound for pound, wasn't he?
No, he was the #1 because I said nobody beats him right now.
No, you gave Chocolatito 1. I think you gave
I gave Chocolatito 2.
Okay.
I gave Manny 1. So that's my Manny's still #1.
I think we're going to go with that. I'm going with vacant until otherwise. It's going to have to be re-earned. It's kind of like when there's no lineal champion and it has to be determined. It's still to be.
You know what? For anybody who thinks Chocolatito loses his spot, this is what I need you to do. Tell me who is your favorite NCAA football team, and tell me where the fuck did they go when they were ranked #1 and they lost? No fucking where half the time.
Oh, if they were Alabama,
yeah,
they dropped to 2, 3, maybe.
Yeah. If that's how your teams go, that's how the fuck Chocolatito should go.
Hey, we don't want consistency in this, man. That's what boxing's all about. Inconsistency.
Because you can't. It's not right to discredit somebody on a robbery. I mean, okay, because you got to count the loss. I understand that. Fine, count the loss, but don't completely discredit the man on a robbery. People forget. Erislandy Lara's first loss, nobody considered it a loss.
How about this? Did Roy Jones lose his #1 pound for pound spot in the eyes of most when he got disqualified against Montel Griffin?
Fuck no.
Okay. You kind of have to go with it almost and that was actually Jones' own fault because all he had to do was just not hit him when he's on the ground.
He was already done. Fuck him.
He was done, but he could have just not hit him one more time. But I'm just saying, this wasn't even Gonzalez's fault. So I mean, there has to be a little bit of leeway.
Yeah.
People just hate the fact that this small dude who punches people a lot, it was #1. It just didn't vibe with what had been the trend, and that's okay. Trends are made to be broken, man. There's a trend, then you start a new trend. It's not that big of a deal. It'll go back to the way it was.
I think people honestly, everybody likes to hold on to their pride a little too much, and sometimes it's hard to call a spade a spade. And just like when you're talking about the racial lines and the country lines, it gets disgusting. I think people just want to be treated fairly and unfairly the same way as everybody else. So you're going to always see that. Nope, because if the motherfucker was this, he would have threw his ass off the list. He'll be number 13. So, yeah, I get it. But at the same time, just call a spade a spade. Like, he got robbed. You know he got robbed. I know he got robbed. Everybody watching know he got robbed. The women at the bar who were the waitresses looked up and said, what? They don't even know boxing. They saw he got robbed. The drunk people said he got robbed. The sober people said he got robbed. Matter of fact, I talked to Jesus on Skype. He said he got robbed. God backed him on that one, said he got robbed. They said they sent a line to the devil. He said, "Yeah, you know, I'm in the robbery business, and I know what a robbery looks like." He got robbed.
Just so you know, I still have Rigondeaux over Jesus, 8-4. Just as most
Ooh.
boxing nerds do, you know.
I don't know about that. I
The
don't know.
God, the God Rigondeaux.
Well, you know, if we could say he got robbed, you know, he got robbed. Like I said before, with Ward and Kovalev, I didn't think Ward won, but I didn't think Kovalev won. I think it was a draw. That's just my opinion. So Kovalev shouldn't have went too far down, and Ward shouldn't have went too far up. That's just in my personal opinion.
And in our personal rankings,
I think Ward was 3 or 4.
depending for me, he was.
Yeah.
I had him one spot behind Kovalev, right? Or maybe I had them together. I might have actually had them together.
No, you had Kovalev ahead of
one spot because I said, I can't do it. If I thought he won 8 rounds, because it's my rankings. God damn it, I ain't got to go into agreement with anybody else. They're my rankings. You know what I mean? It's like I had Jacobs by 1. Now, if I go back to that fight, maybe I think Jacobs lost that fight. Maybe I was blinded as well. Like, maybe Jacobs is doing way better than I thought he was, and Golovkin's not doing nearly as good as I thought he was. Maybe that influence. Maybe so. But I don't like to go back and judge fights. I think
it's crazy.
It's yeah.
Because you're gonna always find
because now you definitely have a bias going into it because you either have been told something or you're looking for something at that point. I like doing with fresh eyes. I scored once. Only one time have I really ever went back and scored a fight. We do that for fun with our throwback fights. But in general, I don't like to go back the next day and score the fight again. Why? I saw what I saw the first time. I guess unless you're in a room where you really couldn't see everything because your view was blocked a lot of times, people walking in front of you, maybe at a sports bar or something like that. Maybe. You know, but in general, this is my score. I'll stick by it. This is what I saw the first time. You convince me that I made a mistake? Sure. Because I'll make the mistakes too.
Rungvisai got one problem. You know, people are, you know, he's in, I hate to say it like this because that wasn't a robbery, it was a knockout, but he's in Buster Douglas territory because people don't necessarily feel like he's the champ. So no matter if Quadras might say, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to skip Chocolatito rematch right now and I'm going to fight Rungvisai because I can get that belt. You know, Inoue, Estrada, everybody's probably in line like, you know what? We ain't got to go through your ass now. We're not. So, and that will say a lot because whichever one of those fighters say, no, I'm fighting Chocolatito. Fuck that loss. I'm fighting. That's who you know. That's the one that has the most heart and balls out of the rest of the bunch. Everybody else is going to go for Rungvisai. I get it. You want to get the title. And he's the easiest way to get it because out of Gonzalez, Inoue, Estrada, and Quadras, Rungvisai, who would you rather? Mm-hmm. You know, okay.
I think Rungvisai showed you that why people thought he beat Estrada. But also, the headbutts from the Estrada fight led to the stoppage. And his reputation preceded himself. And he got that point deducted.
And I can't say that the headbutts are necessarily on purpose, but I will say this about Rungvisai. It's kind of ironic that because of his southpaw style, he never tries to put his right foot over their left. He's always kind of inside. Mm. So, you're damn right. He's going to headbutt the shit out of you because he's not trying to get any kind of defensive space or strategical advantage. Mm-mm. He's just, well, swing with this hand in his head. Fuck it. Whatever one land first, that's the one we going with. You know, if he get you with an elbow, you wouldn't care. He's a fighter. He's not a boxer. But he got his ass whooped in that fight.
Quadras looked like shit. That fight was shit. Who gives a shit? We went a long time with Martin. So I'm actually glad because then we don't have to talk about the Quadras Carmona fight. It was terrible. We got the Crawler fight out of the way. We talked about that. Do you see Linares' 12-round decision, or do you see him stopping Crawler, or do you give Crawler a chance to?
I give him a chance, but not a big chance. Yeah. Like he's got, like when y'all were talking about the style, stylistically he's gonna have to make that body punch in his bread and butter. He's gonna have to use that trainer's gonna have to give him, look, you know how I train. We gonna train like this, but it's gonna be that Chavez game plan. Don't even throw no headshots. Throw body shots for the first 4 rounds. Just whatever, throw a headshot to throw him off or going to the body. Fuck that. And then try to bang him down after that. But as far as skill wise, no. He's gonna have to throw the kitchen sink at Linares to win.
Yeah, those gloves are going to have to come down before 6. He's going to have to be a non-Joe Gallagher fighter. He's going to have to take that Barroso game plan and be like that to eventually get him in a position where he can land clean punches to the head. Because if you got that guard up, Linares is such a skilled fighter that he's just going to pick you apart, and it'll be an easy victory. You got to step on the gas by round 3 or 4. You can't wait till 6 or 7. By that time, it's too far gone because you're not going to sweep it. And I don't know if he's got enough to stop Linares. I mean, Linares probably going to win 8 rounds. Again.
And honestly, win, lose, or draw, they gonna make a movie about Crawler. Let's just be real. Like, from the robbery to the cracked upside the head with the concrete to being world champion, they gonna make a movie about it. It could stop right there. Now, if he wins this fight, oh shit, that's an extra 15 minutes in the movie, But he's already gonna be a living legend because of his rise to the top. And think about it, the name alone is movie worthy.
Oh yeah.
You think they're not gonna make a movie? Come on now, they made a movie about Mickey Ward. You think they're not gonna make a movie about Crawler? Shit. Starring Idris Elba. No.
Anthony Crawler. Perfect. I like it. Is he English?
Yeah.
He is English, ain't he? Yeah, see, perfect. He's got the accent down perfect, man. I don't know if he's from the right area, but
it's semantics.
Wait,
fuck it. Semantics.
We're ignorant Americans when it comes to that stuff.
Fuck it.
It's all the same to us, right?
Fuck it. Like, what type of shit is this?
All right, let's cut it there. Quick thanks again to Martin Theobald from New Age Boxing Podcast. Check those guys out. Give them a rate and review so their friend Terry can stop whining. Because he always wants a rate and review. He says he wants gloves and all kinds of shit. I like all those dudes, man.
Rate and review.
Those guys, man. They don't hold anything back. I just, like, that's the one thing, like, when you see British humor, like on TV shows, like, their mouths are so, like, whatever they're thinking, it comes out.
Well,
nobody says fuck in a more gentlemanly way than the people from the UK.
We're speaking bastardized English.
Exactly.
So you gotta divert to the champs, the originators. So if they let it out, damn it, they let it out. They speaking the Queen's English with King's balls. Fuck it. Like, fuck that. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm sticking to it. Fuck you if you don't like it.
So I'll be tweeting that. I'll be tweeting it out. His Twitter handle. You guys can follow him there. Definitely listen to their show. It's good quality fun, man. You can follow the show for us on Twitter, Cheap Seats Box, iTunes, rate, review, be the next unofficial sponsor. Please, people, help us out. UK people who are going to listen to this show because of him, welcome. Make the trip over every week, man. We're here every week. Email us, cheapseatsboxing@gmail.com. Questions, comments, anything like that. JP, is there anything else?
And get on Twitter and just type in #robbery. Okay? This is where the fighters fight and the fans commentate.
And we do it just like you for the cheap seats because we ain't buying no tickets, goddammit. Peace.
Again, I'll be the next heavyweight champion.